Wade here with my aluminum toy hauler. I've got a 2020 29 front bedroom, and I am dealing with this problem of filling up my accessory fuel tank. A lot of us have complained about this. We believe that when ATC installed the check ball valve, that it was installed improperly, so that when fuel is going into this tank, it actually compresses the ball valve and actually seals off the tank. Fuel then bubbles up here and you can no longer put fuel in. So if you put it slowly enough, it doesn't force that ball valve closed. So we've all modified this, many of us have modified this process with a clothes hanger, and we put that clothes hanger all the way down in there to basically move that ball valve out of the way, or to keep it open while we fuel our accessory fuel tank. It's a pain in the butt. I hate it. And so I'm making this video on my solution and how to do it. In order to get this little plate off, you need to remove these 4 screws, and it'll just slip right off. So you need to remove these 4 screws on the outside, and there's 2 screws on the side of this gas cap that you'll need to remove. That's in order to remove the face plate from the silver inlet. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now that these 4 screws are removed, that secures it to the wall, I can now remove these to get the black thing off. Now you're going to need to remove these 2 screws right here on the side of this fuel inlet, and then you can simply just take the black faceplate off of that. This is the underside. Looking at this, we need to take this off. Ideally, right here, you're going to grab that silver fuel inlet and start twisting and pulling to get this off of that large hose. It's actually going to be quite difficult, and it is a pain, but with persistence you can get it off. This is what that fuel inlet looks like once you remove it. In retrospect, this is where I would have changed what I did. This opening to that fuel hose right there, as you can see in the picture, goes all the way back to the tank where it has the ball valve. I would actually have taken a pry bar such as this, stuck it down that hose, and just tapped on that pry bar until the ball valve pushed through all the way into the tank, thereby solving the problem and then putting things back together from here. However, at this point, I proceeded to remove that hose from the accessory fuel tank just so I could take a look at the ball valve to see if I could actually fix how the ball valve was situated. In actuality, I couldn't. I would have had to remove the entire tank in order to do that. And that's when I simply decided to just push the ball all the way through into the tank. But I'll show you how I took the rest of it off, just in case you're curious. In between the 2 tires is your accessory fuel tank. And you will see this black, mine's already off, this black hose and hose clamp. So I had to remove the hose clamp and using a heat gun, I heated up that hose until it was warm so it was more pliable. Then, since I had already removed everything else from the end where the fuel cap goes, I was able to twist and pull here. Lots of elbow grease until you can get this off. And there's a bend from here, it bends down, so you actually have to pull down to get that off. Okay, so it takes a lot of twisting, a lot of pulling, and you can get that off. You can then see the ball valve in there. I initially attempted to reposition that ball in the ball valve assembly, but I accidentally pushed too hard and the ball just popped into the tank. So again, if you just go back, don't remove this large fuel hose, and want to just push the ball into the tank, you can avoid the painful removal of this fuel hose. I removed this off of my fuel tank, and it was kind of a pain. And that is where that ball valve was. But this is what I did. I just took a long bar, put it in here, and took a hammer and punched that ball into the tank. And now it's sitting in my tank, but it's no longer causing a stoppage of fuel. And now I need to reinstall this. Back through. Okay, you can now see, after a lot of persuasive twisting, I was able to get that back on and clamp down. Now I have to put this top part back on. Now we have to put this back on after I've already secured the base of that hose. I now need to secure this. I'm going to put it right back and wedge this into that hose. Some struggles, I was able to get this back on. Now we need to replace this back on there. So I'm going to get those 2 screws and put them in that hole and that hole. Before I started screwing these, I actually went up under and loosened those hose clamps so it could wiggle a little bit if it needed to. I'm gonna go back and tighten them up. There's no structural purpose to this. It's really just decorative. Replace this here with those 4 screws. So we're just gonna buzz these back on. So there you have it. Just finished up this job and it was not fun. And a few scratches, and but it's doable. It's helpful if you have an extra hand. But I now actually have removed that ball check valve. I can now throw this away. In retrospect, what I would have done after having done this job, I initially took all of this apart and I was going to try and actually reposition this check ball valve so that it properly functioned. I couldn't do that because the tank was secured up in position. I ended up just taking this thing and knocking the ball valve into the tank, so now I no longer have a check ball valve. So it's not necessarily the safest thing, but I would rather be able to just fuel quickly. In retrospect, I should have just taken this. I would have probably just taken this off. So I would remove this, take the black part off, take this silver part off, and just stick this thing down the pipe, knocking the ball valve. I wouldn't have actually had to remove it from the tank. In retrospect, that's what I would have done. Feel free to comment or contact me if you have any questions about this job.